Hi, welcome to the podcast of the superintendent. We were just having a discussion before we started, and I think this is the most important thing we have to talk about. What is the name of this thing we're doing regularly now, which I did not think would keep going as long as it has.
Yeah.
So
I think we need to come up with something better than Superintendent's Podcast. And so I think one of our students we've heard uses the name Dinner with Doug or something like that. We might have to query the elementary students for the best name for this podcast.
no, I would be very happy to see what they come up with. I think that would be a lot of fun, and we can put it up there. And
Yeah.
I mean, and we can work in Kara's name too.
We have a young student that this is a couple years back, and the student would, when he was in kindergarten, he'd be so excited to see me and tell me a story. He'd call me Mr. Tiger, Tiger, Lyons, close enough,
yeah.
But he was just so excited just to tell the story. It just came out, and the kids in his class also just followed suit, so they would just continue to call me Mr. Tiger. So
We could just go with the Tiger reference and
yeah, we'll have to check naming rights.
Yeah,
we've been down that road.
No, it's actually, this might have been a long time ago. I don't want to bring up bad memories from Mr. Banker, but I remember when they were doing the Polar Express.
Yeah.
And as people may or may not know, but I'm a lawyer, and they got a cease and desist letter, and we had to. That's why they changed the name, which is still a great event. And I mean, it's not for a while now, but if you went to it this past year, it's amazing. Oh my God, what do they call it now? I still want to call it the Wakefield Polar Express, and I know it's not that.
The Jingle Jolly?
The Jingle Jolly, thank you.
I think so. Yeah, that's what I thought you were talking about.
But it's great. It's great. What with the Jingle Jolly with Doug and Kara? Yeah.
Perfect. Be seasonal. We'll have it.
Yeah.
The name could change seasonal.
Like every season and whatnot. And I know different people have been, will come up with different ideas. We'll see what they say. But, all right, we'll start with the normal stuff. Since we last spoke, I know we have big news we'll talk about, but just anything people should know about that, there's always things we should be proud of, but what are some of the highlights from last time we talked?
I think since our last meeting, we had the MLK Day at Galvin.
Yep, that was wonderful.
It
Great
was
production.
A great production. I think it was filmed by WCAT. WCAT covers everything, which is just fantastic. But that was a great day. I think it was great to be there and to represent the Mass Partnership for Youth. Margie Daniels got an award there and leading the MPY is what they call it.
Yep.
And so MPY is right here in Wakefield, but they've coordinated professional development both for school administrators, teachers, counselors, and the police in coordination with one another to best support and serve students. So they really, really do a nice job. So we were happy that Margie was honored at that event, but also the students that spoke there and the dance troupe that was there was amazing. They really did a nice job. Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah, Evan spoke and he loved it, and it's he had a great line. He talks about this all the time, and he says, the most important thing, and I think it's reflected in everything you were just talking about in making MLK's vision a reality, is building those relationships. I know we're going to talk about new school buildings and whatnot, but he said it really is the people and those relationships. Like a kid will come to a Boys and Girls Club that's in a basement of a civic center because they love guys like Evan and Jack Stromsky, Jack Ahern, and Ashley and quite a few other people.
Yeah. The people make the place is a common phrase that we use, right? And so it's not about the bricks and mortar. I mean, all of those things are important. The new school building that we're going to have is hugely important, and it's going to impact teaching and learning. But at the end of the day, the relationship the teachers have with students in the classroom to help them understand the content, to help them understand who they are becoming, and what they can become, is really the key to all of it.
No, it's so true. And actually, we can talk about people, and I think what I think is so cool about local government and local politics in general is that it's one of the few places where you can say, because of me, X happened. And we were talking about this ongoing just a few seconds ago or a few minutes ago. And really, Ian, of all people, I mean, Ian's the one, let's be frank, who emails us every few weeks and says, hey, do you guys want to get together and do another podcast? Without Ian, this
Yeah.
doesn't happen, and I know a lot of the other events don't happen. So if he watches this, hey, can you make sure Ian knows that we're complimenting him? No, it's all good. But what else? The MLK event, amazing.
It was a great morning for the community. That was something that we just had. We also would be remiss if we didn't give a shout out to the teachers union and the WEA leaders. The president is Jess Cummings, who just collaborated very closely with us in negotiations this past Saturday, so just about a week ago. And for the first time, and since I've been here, this is my 9th year, but for the first time in 9 years, the labor subcommittee, which is led by Stephen Engels, had invited Steve Mayo to come to negotiations this past Saturday to talk about municipal finance, right? And so, what is the financial state of the town? What does it look like? How do we manage free cash, for example? How do we manage and make decisions around that? So he talked about policy, he talked about practice, and Steve did a presentation that lasted probably about 30 minutes, but that kind of level set the conversation, and I think was really a big part, not the whole part, but a big part of helping us get a tentative agreement that we got in place last Saturday. Now a tentative agreement doesn't mean that we have a completed contract.
Well, let's get to that, because so the big news of the week, or the past few weeks, obviously, is that there is a tentative agreement. The WEA announced it on Facebook. I saw some headlines about it. So, how do you feel? You must feel relieved. And if you, again, I don't, it's such a weird gray area because we have a tentative agreement, not a full agreement. But can you give us like the overview of some of the good things, other than obviously a long-term contract for our teachers, but some of the good things that are in this contract?
Yeah. Well, first of all, to just go back to the technical aspects of what a tentative agreement is,
true.
right? And so if I can mention that.
Yeah.
Anthony,
Please.
right?
Yeah.
So what that means is that the bargaining groups, so the administration and school committee are one group, and the group that we're bargaining with are the teacher leaders that represent the unit or the union, and they're the Wakefield Educators Association. And so what we've done is we've come up with a series of proposals that both sides have tentatively agreed to. So in terms of process, that needs to be brought back to the entire school committee to be voted on, but it also needs to be brought back to all of the teachers to vote on that as well. So they're scheduling that for after break, so there'll be more information following there. But the highlights, we really, so I think it's a much improved contract, and I think it's going to be a model for a number of districts that are entering negotiations here on the North Shore. And one of the things that we're particularly proud of is this idea that it will help us retain staff, but also attract new staff. And many, many districts are having a hard time finding personnel, and I think that this has the potential to set us apart.
No, I mean, and that's really, we were talking about this, just now. It's the people.
Yeah.
And in this time where there is a teacher shortage for a variety of reasons, being able to attract that talent is going to be huge.
Yeah.
It's going to be absolutely huge. Well, and it's an exciting time, and it is nice. I think it's reflective the fact that Steve Mayo was there, that the town was involved, that you had all these different groups come together to get this done and avoid, a situation like you saw in Newton, before that in Andover and Malden. That didn't happen here, which is wonderful, right? I mean, you don't want to get to that point.
Right.
So
I think it was clear there was common ground just in terms of the big picture. Obviously, we won't go into details, but I think these things have been talked about publicly, just big picture ideas around just creating the best working conditions we can. So, money, time on learning for students, parental leave, those are some of the big bucket areas that are important to all of us, because we want to create the best working conditions we can for people who work here, but do so in a way, in a budget that we can sustain over time, which I think it was just nice to get to that point where we could all just kind of come to a compromise and move forward in a positive way. So I thought the meeting ended really well. I think the general sentiment in the district right now feels really positive, which I think people want to hear because it makes people on edge if they think there's any kind of contention
absolutely.
or, it's obviously a difficult process, and it's hard because we can't always agree on every aspect, but I think that it was done respectfully, and I think from a culture perspective, I think people are feeling pretty good right now.
Yeah, I had a mentor of mine that used to say, if you do negotiations well, it doesn't feel like you won really anything. It feels like you've both worked really hard. Both sides have worked really hard to get to a common ground, and I feel like we were able to do that. But it took a while. It took a while, and it took a lot of effort on everyone's part to get it done.
No, you're absolutely right. People may know, but in my other life, I do mostly, real estate law, and I practice, and there's a ton of negotiation. And really, what I tell everybody, and what I've learned from mentors very similarly, is that when you're in the business of deal making, it should not be adversarial. While you might have different interests,
Right.
at the end, you only win if there's a deal that everybody can agree to. If somebody's won or lost, it doesn't really matter per se, because if the deal doesn't go through, you've all lost. To that point, I was going to say, even throughout this time, I have to say I was surprised at how well it was going, because I forget who made the comment, so I hope I'm not speaking out of school here, but I think we were on one of these shows, and somebody said, oh, we rescheduled one of the meetings, which to me usually is a sign that things are going well. When you can basically, when the sides respect each other enough that we say, hey, do you guys want to reschedule? A, that means there's been progress, because
Right.
obviously you're not rescheduling if everything's about to
Right.
go poorly.
Right.
And B, you respect the other side's time enough to say, hey, let's reschedule when it's more convenient, which I think speaks volumes of the whole process. So well, not yet,
Right.
but I guess tentative congratulations to you guys and mostly the students who hopefully, don't have to worry.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
I appreciate that.
Well, now we'll get to the fun stuff. What do we have to look ahead to?
I can jump in. We're in the thick of kindergarten registration, which we lightly touched on last
I
time.
did.
And I know that's
I did.
personal to you.
We just did. Well, my wife signed us up, but yeah.
Yeah. So we're really in just kind of the heart of that right now with registration. Technically, the window's closed, but we're always trickling in last minute registration. I think it's looking good in terms of like a quick overview of numbers right now. This kindergarten year, our numbers definitely jumped up a lot with the students who are in kindergarten right now. So that's kind of come up recently too, just around our class sizes, which are still within policy, still within normal range, but higher than we've had in a couple of years. We had, I think, about like a little over 40 more kindergartners this year than we did last. But now it looks like we're swinging
Was that
back.
spread through the district?
It
or?
was throughout the district. Yeah, so it wasn't even like, sometimes we'll have one school that's higher than others, and we'll try to balance that where we can. It's been pretty consistent that we're a class of 22, 23, 24 across the district. So a lot of young kids in Wakefield
Wow.
in kindergarten right now.
Yeah.
The numbers for next year are averaging around more normal. I think we're going to be like 19 to 22 per class right now from where it stands. So doing a lot with that. We'll be trying to get school placements out to parents. We'll run a kindergarten information night for parents in March with our principals. And we're in process of applying for our summer acceleration grant, which we've run the last 3 years. That grant application came out earlier than it has in the past, which is great for us to give parents notification if we get the grant. So hopefully that goes through and we're able to run our little like pre-kindergarten camp for kids to get acclimated with their kindergarten teachers in the summer, which has been really productive.
So I have an idea.
Great.
What if for the kindergarten, for like the parents of firstborn children who might have attachment issues like me, not the kid, parent,
Yes.
for the parents who have attachment issues, can they be allowed to just come with the child and just sit there for the whole school so that they don't cry?
We could put you maybe in another room.
Yeah.
So that parents don't cry or children?
The parents.
The
Oh,
parents are
I
gonna
will.
need some help.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. My son, when we dropped off my son at preschool,
hard.
he was fine.
Yeah.
I was listening to like cats
Yeah.
in the cradle, like bawling my eyes out. He was like going in, like making jokes, talking to the teachers, but I was a mess.
It's
Yeah.
really emotional. We
Yeah.
found that this program for the last 3 summers for kids and parents has been really helpful just with the big transition that is there.
Yeah.
And yeah, parents of the firstborns, it's definitely on another level.
This is also a Wakefield build, right? So when this acceleration grant that we get, you can dedicate it how you want to dedicate it, to what grades you want to dedicate it to. And so something that we decided is that we would try to focus on students that are new to public school, right? New to kindergarten, not new to Doyle, not new to pre-K, but new to our public schools and new to kindergarten. And by getting going on this, it's like a soft opening, right?
Yep.
And so, but you have smaller groups, often with your classroom teacher. So it's really a beautiful thing, So that it's easier for kids, easier for parents to get in, but it also gives students a leg up on knowing, where to go in your school, how to find your way around, who your friends are going to be, who's in the same class. So you get a lot of things out of the way in smaller, more intimate settings, right? So that when kindergarten actually comes, kids just fly right in the door and just get right after it. And our principal, so this is, initially when we started this, it was right when we were coming out of COVID. And so, we thought to ourselves, biggest bang for the buck, right? No districts are doing this way, but let's try to just focus on our earliest learners, right? And so we did this, gave it a go. It was a tremendous success. And I think Kara has worked with the curriculum coordinators. We've worked with Wakefield Academy, and I think we've only made it better every single year. So I think it's one of the best things that we do. A question that we often get from teachers is, if this grant from the Department of Ed goes away, is there any way that we might continue this? And it's hard to think that if this grant went away, that we would have to find another funding source. It's that good.
No,
right?
I mean, and I think that's the priority, and that's why we have town meeting, right?
Right.
So, I'll tell you, as a parent of a kindergartner, I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
I'm just sad that my son's growing up. I mean, how do you keep them?
No. Once they start school, it goes really fast. I know.
It
Yeah.
does.
It really. I
Yeah.
always tell them, I'm like, so it's so funny. I will say this, and I do have a newborn. I have a 4-month-old, but I would say even as little as a year ago,
Yeah.
people would say, "Oh," I would say things like, "Oh yeah, well, we have a newborn," and they're like, "Oh, you had another one?" I'm like, "Oh no, I'm talking about my 3-year-old."
Yeah.
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 But yeah, it's hard. No, now he goes. So for any parent who's worried, I'll say my son goes into preschool. Every kid, even the kids who go in there a little bit teary-eyed, they're usually within minutes they're fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, the parents are a mess. Like,
Yeah. No, it doesn't matter if you are a school teacher, a school administrator. At the end of the day, if you're fortunate enough to be a parent like we are, dropping your oldest off at kindergarten was traumatic, right?
Yeah.
It was a lot.
All of the principals have said another marker of success is less tears for kids and parents on the actual day one as a result of this program, which is
Kids
good.
and
We'll
parents.
take
yeah,
it.
and parents. So like,
Yeah.
what do you call kid?
Yeah.
Like, can you please have Anthony leave the
Yeah.
premises?
But it's funny, Anthony, when with your oldest, you live kindergarten, like getting home and getting an update in terms of how did the day go?
Yeah.
How are things going? How was lunch? How was recess? How was all of it? What stood out?
Oh, absolutely.
And for us, kindergarten, and the teacher our oldest had had a huge impact on our family, right? Had a huge impact on our family,
No, it's true. It's so true. Even now, he's in preschool, and it is exciting. It does make you realize. I do tell people, again, if you're lucky enough to be a parent, you do realize it makes you appreciate your parents, and then you think about your teenage, like
Oh,
the
yeah.
kind of like
Yeah.
those years are like, oh man, sorry for being a jerk when I. But is there anything else coming up?
Yeah, I mean, do
So-
you want to bring up the school tours?
Yeah.
Yep.
Before I talk about
Yep.
school tours, I would just like to mention that, speaking of Doyle, Doyle did an open house,
Oh.
and they had 60 families attend,
Wow.
which was just unbelievable, more than they have ever had in the past. They also have more students on the wait list than they have ever had in the past, so which is amazing, right? Amazing to us. because and Doyle our pre-K program is really one of the very best things that we do. Pre-K and K is kind of, I think they're things that don't get enough recognition in terms of how well our teachers in those spaces are really preparing students for grade 1 and grade 2. But so Doyle had an open house, went really well, and 60 families attended. And so parallel to that, right after the Doyle open house, we also started our school tours. So in the last few years, we've invited school committee to come on a rotating schedule to visit all of the schools in the district. This year, we've opened it up to also include town council. So we've had town council members and school committee members come and visit.
And Steve Mayo as
visit
well.
schools.
Been able to attend a couple.
Steve Mayo
Yep.
as well. And it's great to see it, right? There's one thing to hear it from a superintendent. I can talk about how great I think the schools are all day long. I feel like I'm very proud of those things. But there's another thing entirely to see it and to hear about it from students that are there. It is just so heart-filling. And it kind of changes your concept of, because most people think, I went to school. I know what my math lesson was like. I know what subjects I gravitated toward. I know what I was good at. I know what I was challenged by, et cetera, et cetera. But there's another thing entirely to see what a new curriculum looks like. There's another thing entirely to see the complexity of the curriculum, and how well students work, not only on individual content, but how well they work with one another. It's really amazing. So we've done all of our schools.
Except for the high school, will be after break on March 1st.
And so, and we're looking forward to welcoming people to the high school.
That's a
It's
great
similar
idea.
I think it's similar to the idea from last Saturday, just bringing people together in the community. As we all work better when we're in the know, and I think it's sparked up. We've had a similar structure at each school where we start with kind of a little presentation. The principal and some students will talk in big picture about the school, and then we'll go off into smaller groups. But just nice conversations along the way between town council, school committee, town manager, administration. So it's another nice effort to bring people together in a positive way.
Yeah, we started off this conversation talking about the people making the place. We visited an elementary school, and Kevin Piscadlo asked, one of our school committee members asked, what do you like best about this elementary school? And there were 4 students that presented, all in 4th grade, but the student just kind of looked away and said, just kind of the love and care that my teacher gives me, and really helps me on things that are difficult. And this was not a practiced answer. A lot of the presentation was practiced, right?
That's true.
They had slides, they presented, but this was just from the heart. It was just, what kids say, right? And then another student followed, said, yeah, me too. Same. What she said, and, but that's what we're going for. That's what we're going for. That's kind of this idea of students feeling seen, students feeling like they belong, students feeling like they have a place, students feeling like they have people that have that, that know them and can advocate for them and recognize them for their strengths. That's the driver. That's what we're going for.
That's true. So very well said, and very true. Very, very true. Well, with that said, I don't know. Do we have anything else? Do you guys?
We're just continuing. The budget process has started. That will become more public in meetings to come through March.
Yeah.
Parent University.
It
another
looks so
big
good.
one, yeah.
Senior nights fundraising too.
So there's a lot.
It is, and it kind of brings to the point where again, this might be my bias from being on a school committee, but it's the schools are the center of a community.
Mm-hmm.
They are, especially in this country. Everything circles the schools. So, all right. Well, with that said, it's good seeing you. We need a name. So
we'll
put it out to the students.
We'll have to put it out to the I think we might start at elementary.
Yeah, and see what they come up with.
I think we might have to have some students in as guests on the podcast here. just to fill it in, because it's one thing to hear about it, but to hear a preschooler or a kindergartner talk about their day, what's special in your day.
It's true. It's true. It's so nice.
It's really important to hear.
Talking with Tiger.
Yeah.
Talking with Tiger.
You know what? You know what's funny? We opened school this year for the first time ever. We had a student panel, and seniors in high school just had a few questions that we asked them. Right, general questions. What experience did you have with a teacher or with your friends that have really made a difference for you in your learning here? Are you nervous or concerned about anything in this upcoming year? They're seniors. And is there anyone that you would like to say thank you to, right? And in this panel, these students presented to all the teachers to start the school year, and they stayed after, and a number of their teachers came up and said hello, and after we debriefed with students, and they were like, I didn't know, like, all of those teachers, they were so nice to me. I would have done this last year. It wasn't an option last year, but this is just something new that we tried. But
that's awesome.
It seemed to really set the stage well for us to open school and really focus on what our gig is, what our job is. Our job is to help kids be, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to, in our case, 22. We have our post academy, which is 18 to 22 years old.
No, it's true. I mean, you're making better people. I mean, that's the goal. So
that is the goal.
So, all right, well, guys, thank you so much. Thank you
you
again to WCAT. We'll keep going, and we'll wait for Ian's email on the next one, right?
Okay, sounds good.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.